again, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I'm Dottino and Matt Citak. We're going to be here for the next rainy hour in the New York City area. It is coming down, and it's going to be this way for, I think, the next 3 days. Not enjoyable weather, but it is what it is. Maybe you'll just enjoy watching the Knicks beat up on Indiana tonight in Game 1 of their Eastern Conference Final. But in the meantime, we're going to be here for the next hour at 201-939-4513 to take your phone calls. And we have so much to get to today because 4 of the rules proposals have been dealt with by the league owners at the league spring meetings. Now, we don't have official notification from the league. I don't believe on all of them. We may have it on part of them, but the reports coming out from ESPN and NFL Network, we'll discuss those reports. Again, we do not have necessarily official clarification on all of these, but we do have the preliminary results as they have been reported by the reputable networks, ESPN and NFL Network. We are coming to you, as always, from the Hackensack, see right here as it says, Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. We appreciate their participation as well in all of our programs. And let's go through quickly the 4 items that we know about. And then we're going to get to your calls at 201-939-4513. And we invite you to chime in however you decide you want to. One of these is of more interest, I think, to the Giants specifically than maybe the other 3. That one would be about the flag football during the 2028 Summer Olympics, because every team is going to be allowed one guy to go into the flag football competition. And you can also let your international designated player go, too. He doesn't count against your allotment. But that's the details. The point is, there's going to be an insurance policy on these players if they get injured during an Olympic event or Olympic practice sessions. There's going to be salary cap credit given to that team if such player is injured. So the NFL's done their best to eliminate the key hurdles that somebody might have in terms of this rule. They're also going to have to deal with the players' union on this. They have not given final approval, so we'll wait for that vote. I think that's important for people to know. The players' union has not voted on it yet. They still have to. But the league has said yes. Also, the Olympic Committee has to tailor very specific specs as to how this is going to be done, the practices. They don't want them interfering with the NFL players' practice schedules or their conditioning drills and everything else that they do. So there's a lot of little details that still have to be ironed out. But the headline is that the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles will have at least the possibility of NFL players playing some flag football. I think it's fun. I do think it is dangerous for the injury situation, but they have now tried to cover that with those stipulations. So it will be very interesting to see how many players actually want to do it. I think that's the first question. How many players will want to do it? I think some guys will, like the NBA had a bunch of guys wanted to play in the Dream Team. Oh, yeah, can't wait to play for the United States. Didn't get a chance to win an Olympic medal when I was in college. I want to go win one, and I want to play for the USA. Some players will want to do it. Other players may not want to do it. So I don't know how this is all going to shake out at the very end, but it's certainly going to add a lot of spice to the summer games. I think a lot of us football fans will probably a little bit be more interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a no-brainer for the NFL. And I think that was kind of evident when the voting came out, and it was a unanimous vote. All 32 owners voted to approve this yesterday. Right. And quite frankly, there's no reason for anyone to, I feel like, to be opposed to it. I mean, we see in every other major sport, in NBA and NHL, players in those leagues are allowed to participate in the Olympics. I mean, the NHL season is when the Winter Olympics take place, and the season just pauses for a couple of weeks in order to let these guys go represent their countries. In baseball, the World Baseball Classic obviously is consisted of mostly or a lot of MLB players, and that takes place, I think, right before training, spring training,
Yes.
or like the very beginning of it. So honestly, I feel like it would have been more of a headline if the NFL said, no, we are not going to allow our players. So I'm glad that was obviously not the case. It had, again, unanimous vote. Everyone was on board. As you mentioned, some players are obviously very excited about this. Justin Jefferson has been leading the charge.
Yes.
And he is one of the best players in the entire NFL. He's been leading the charge. He clearly is thrilled about this and will be participating, barring some unforeseen circumstances, in a couple of years in the Olympics in 2028 in Los Angeles. Whether other players, follow suit, it's going to be sort of just a case-by-case basis. Like, some players are going to be very excited about it. Others are going to be like, you know what? This is right before the start of training camp, and as much as I would love to represent my country, I have a 6-7 month grueling season right ahead of me. I'm going to take those last couple of weeks and rest up before training camp starts. So I think this was clearly the right move. We'll see how many players, take advantage of this now. I feel like obviously we see this in every sport. It is an honor to represent your country in the Olympics. A great honor that very few people in the history of this world get to do. So a lot of players are going to take advantage of that. They're going to go out there, try to win a gold medal. I mean, as you said, you brought up the NBA. There are some years where the U.S. team in the Olympics, the men's basketball team, consists of some of the best players in the league. There are other Olympic sessions where it's not exactly your, top tier A-list players. You're still getting very good players, but not the upper echelon. So it's going to really be up to the players, which is quite frankly what it should be. It shouldn't. I would have had a little bit of an issue if the owners kind of said, no, we're not going to allow our players to represent their countries, because again, it is a tremendous honor. So the owners, the league, everyone did right here. Obviously, as you mentioned, there's still going to have to be some sort of agreement made with the NFLPA, but considering how much the players have been pushing for this, I can't imagine that's going to be much of an obstacle. I feel like it's just kind of figuring out some of like the exact terminology they're going to use for this agreement.
And in most cases, your football guys never get a chance to even do anything remotely close to representing their country. I mean, some of the guys are track stars.
Yep.
Okay, some of them are. Some of them at times may have been collegiate wrestlers, and had they gone on, could have maybe been Olympians. Maybe. You don't know.
Occasional rugby player like Nate Ebner.
Yeah, exactly. So for the most part, though, football players, as they go through college as football players and then get to the NFL, they don't even get the opportunity. There's no pathway for them to get into the Olympics. So this gives them a chance. Yeah. And if they want to, okay. And if they don't have to apply.
Yeah.
It's really pretty simple. So I thought I agree with you. I thought it was a no-brainer, and it was unanimous. That was yesterday.
Yep.
That actually came out, I think, right after our show was over.
Yep.
So I wanted to get that one out of the way first. Now, 3 other items that were all part of the deal since that time that we have now understood, at least the reports are, what has passed and what has not passed.
These all took place this morning.
Yes.
Just one. Clarify.
Declaration of onside kicks to be expanded beyond the fourth quarter has passed. Now, what I like about this is that they're now going to let any team, when they are behind, to declare an onside kick at any time during the game. This kind of came to the forefront last year when Philadelphia was hammering the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They had scored late in the third. They were still getting hammered. And I'm sure they would love to have tried an onside kick to get the ball back to attempt to make the game competitive. But guess what? There was still a little time left in the third quarter. So they couldn't do it. The rule that was put in place last year was you could only do it in the fourth quarter. So they've now expanded it so that you can ask for an onside kick at any time if you're the trailing team. Also, they're moving the tee back. Now, this is interesting. And I'm not sure I totally get this. Dean Blandino, the former supervisor of officials of the NFL, was just on Sirius NFL while I was coming in. He didn't understand exactly why they did this either, but they're going to move the tee back to the 34 on an onside kick. they'll allow the kicking team to line up at the 35, as was the case before. But now the kicking tee is going to be moved back a yard. Apparently, there's a thought process that might increase the opportunity to recover it.
Yeah, that's everything I read. Said that's
I'm not sure
was
how.
the thinking behind it. I don't fully get it. I guess you have a split second more now to get that little bit down the field to try to recover it. I don't know if the 1 yard is really going to make much of a difference. I guess we'll find out. But
yeah, I don't get that.
The reason, as you said, the reasoning was they believe that it will lead to an increase in kicking teams recovering the onside kicks. I don't know if that will be the case, and if it's not, there might be more changes to this rule next year.
It could be.
I do not think that this is going to be the final version of the onside kick rule for the rest of the history of this league. But they're trying something new. But in terms of expanding it beyond the fourth quarter, I was shocked last year when it came out that they were saying you only could do it in the fourth quarter. I didn't really understand that.
That was horrific. I think everybody who could accept the rule said, well, wait a minute, though. There's something wrong with it.
Yeah, because it's not like, it's not like you can surprise a team by doing a surprise onside kick. Like, you still have to declare it. So the fact that they were limiting it to just the fourth quarter, quite frankly, didn't make much sense last year. So I'm glad after one season they, remedied that and changed it to what it should be, which is now if you're just losing the game, it could be the first quarter. You could be down 7-3. If you really want to do an onside kick, go for it.
The way it used to be.
Yeah.
Onside kicks were a matter of surprise. You could do it at any time.
Yeah. The surprise element's no longer there. But if a team chooses to do it in the first half, so be it. That's their prerogative.
Now, the number that they gave out on Sirius NFL, and I don't have the specifics, all they gave was the percentage. They said it was about 6% success ratio. Did you see a number anywhere?
No, but I mean, I honestly would have thought it would be even lower than that.
Yeah.
It seemed like barely.
It was just about 6%, apparently.
I feel like off the top of my head, I can maybe remember like 1 or 2 onside kicks being recovered by the kicking team last year.
I mean, we don't see every one.
No, of course. But it's definitely rare.
We're talking about crumbs here.
Yeah.
And I don't know that this rule is going to make those crumbs any bigger.
No, they might have to move the tee back a little bit further next year to see much of a difference.
All right, so that one passed. All right, so now that came down to 2 other rules that were in play, and we're going to save the big one for last. We're going to go to the Lions taking back their entry into the rules proposals about seeding by playoff seeding by record. They simply decided, and I did not see anything from them as to why they pulled it back. Did you see a quote?
Not a quote from the Lions, but the reports were that which is very clear that they did not have the support. That the number I saw was that they were around maybe 10 teams that were in support of it. Obviously, in order to change a rule, you need, was it 24? 24. So if you're at 10, you're obviously not even 50% of the way there. So I think they were just like, we're not even going to bother.
It's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time. Okay. We've got, bigger issues to talk about.
We're not in the owners' meetings. It's not our time that they're wasting.
No, for sure. But it did, from what I read, it does seem like there is some momentum. It's not like this is going to be, just because they took the proposal off this year that we're never going to see it again. We are certainly going to see this proposal again next year. And especially if you have another situation like we saw in the NFC this year where the Vikings and Lions had the 2 best records in football and they were playing week 18 and the loser was the 5th seed. If a situation similar to that happens again, it's just going to put this argument right back into the forefront next offseason.
The report this morning on Sirius NFL Radio was that they left open the possibility that they might consider reseeding after the first round, maybe for 2026.
Yeah, wasn't that part of this proposal?
I don't know if it was or it wasn't, because I did not see all the idiosyncrasies in every one of the proposals. But apparently that part, if it was, still got some conversation, but they're not going to think about it for this year.
Yeah.
That's being put off. If it was originally part of it, I'm not even sure. All right, so now the big one, right, is the tush push one. Now, here's the interesting part. According to, I guess it's Albert Breer, did he have the number?
Yeah,
Somebody had
a
the
lot of
number.
people put the number out.
They got 22 votes to ban the tush push. They needed 24. All right, so they came oh so close. Now, the interesting part for me is that the NFL Health and Safety Committee recommended they ban it, which goes to everything that I told you guys about yesterday. Okay? It's my belief it's not a safe play, and it encourages a dangerous play. And obviously, the Health and Safety Committee has serious concerns about it. They recommended a ban. As far as I'm concerned, that justifies banning the play. But having said that, it did not get enough votes. We knew for sure that the Eagles were going to vote to down the ban. So that meant it was going to be, you needed 24 out of 31, not 24 out of 32. Because the Eagles were the ones that were going to fight it. They even brought Jason Kelsey down there, apparently, to lobby on their behalf. You guys know how he feels about it. You know how I feel about it. There's no sense in wasting another hour talking about this. If you guys want to voice your opinion, you're welcome to, and I won't jump on you. I promise you that, because it is what it is.
I just want to clarify one thing about my stance, because I thought I made it clear yesterday, but I feel like because you and I got in a bit of an argument that maybe I got veered off from my point, because I got a lot of tweets since the show yesterday, and a lot of people understood where I was coming from, but a few people clearly didn't.
I got mixed tweets, to be honest with you.
So I just want to clarify. I was not sitting up here yesterday saying the NFL should not ban the tush push. All I was saying was that I don't think it is fair to use player safety as the reasoning behind banning it, because there's just no evidence to support that. That was all I was trying to say. I said, and I remember saying this, if you think it, ruins the integrity of the game or it goes against what the NFL stands for, whatever that sort of reason may be, that is totally fine, and I can respect that. My stance was there is just no evidence to support that this play has any more injury risk than any other play, because that is what the evidence says. That was my stance, and just based on some of the tweets, like a few tweets, that maybe was not very clear.
I would love to know, because all we have are the reports from ESPN and NFL Network. They're saying the Health and Safety Committee said ban it. I'd love to know what their discussion was and what their presentation was and what their reasoning was to say it should be banned. I think you'd like to see it too, because you don't seem very sold on it, and that's okay. But for clarity's sake, I'd like to see what they had to say too, because I feel strongly how I do.
No, 100%. Like
we don't have that.
If that committee, showed evidence saying, you know what, there actually is an increased risk, my stance would change immediately. The thing that is most important to me is the player safety. If that became an actual risk, if there's evidence to show, hey, this play actually does increase the chance of concussions or whatever injury, I would be fully on board with banning it.
Well, you've got to be curious as to why they said to ban it.
No, for sure. So my question to you was going to be, because I actually don't know this, who consists of the members of that committee? Is it just...
I don't have that list.
Is it just some of the owners? Because if it's just some of the owners, and let's say, for example, the Green Bay Packer, well, they don't have a actual owner. I don't know who their representative would be in this situation. But, if it was someone like that and they were on that committee, then I kind of feel like, well, they might just kind of be pushing that, narrative because they just want this play banned. I don't actually know who's part of the committee, so I'm
trying to look it up.
I'm
trying to look it up. Okay, here it is. It's composed of the chairman from each of the other NFL medical committees, as well as the heads of the NFL Physicians Society and the Professional Football Athletic Trainers Society. And here they are: Dr. Robert Anderson, Dr. Robert Brophy. I must tell you, I do not know these people. These are obviously very high-ranking medical officials.
For sure.
Dr. Javier Cardenas. I believe he was one of the fellows who was involved in the whole concussion issue some years ago. Dr. Tony Casolaro.
Yeah, I don't
Dr. Elliot Hirschman. I know he was a Jets physician for quite a long time. Dr. Richard Hinton. Yeah, look at these.
Okay, so it's not owners.
No, it's not.
Okay.
These are significant.
Yeah.
These are significant medical people.
Alan Sills, obviously, I've heard of.
Dr. Tom Mayers from the NFL Players Union. We know Dr. Alan Sills. Yeah, we know about him. He's from the NFL. I really don't know much about these other people other than clearly they have titles and very significant qualifications in the medical community.
For sure. So to your point, I really do wish that this committee would release their argument as to why they believe it should get banned. Because maybe that would help clear up people like me, other people that are like, I don't know about banning it. It would help clarify our stances for sure.
Well,
like if
it
they
would
showed
cause you to pause, though, when you hear that they said it should be banned. That would cause you to pause.
Yes, but my only counterpoint would be that while we are not privy to what that committee said, the owners are. They obviously made the presentation to the owners.
They fell 2 votes short.
And they still didn't get the vote, which I could be wrong, but I feel like if the owners were presented information saying this directly leads to more injuries, that it would have been banned then.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion. We're not in those meetings, so I don't know.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. I would agree with you on that. That makes sense. If it was that clear that these medical folks are saying get rid of it, you'd vote get rid of it.
Yeah, I feel like all owners, even Jeffrey Lurie, if there was evidence showing that the play was dangerous, I feel like even he would be like, you know what? Okay, we got good use out of it, helped us win a Super Bowl, but if you have evidence to support that it is dangerous for players, then let's ban it.
Now, Dean Blandino, again, on Sirius NFL, as I was coming in, he speculated. He didn't say he knew. All right, let me make that clear. He did not say he knew why. His speculation was that several of these teams who voted to keep it in aren't playing Philadelphia this year, so therefore they didn't care. That was one thing he said. I don't know if I agree with that, but he offered that as one item. The other item that he offered was that there was a perception, as I'm sure some people got from our debate yesterday, that people are going after the Eagles because they're the ones who've perfected it. They're the ones who did so well with it. They won a Super Bowl with it. He actually went as far as to say as if next year the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl in 2025 and it comes up again, he went as far as to say that there's a better chance it actually will pass because he thinks that there was this perception that it was an anti-Eagle vote. I don't know. I give that to you folks. That's what Blandino said this morning on the radio. I will offer you this piece of information, though. And this I did take time to look up. Tom Brady's career success on quarterback sneaks that did not involve tush push, because they didn't do that in Tampa or in New England, was 91% for his career. He played a long time in this league, and he had a 91% success ratio on quarterback sneaks of 1 yard or less. That was ESPN reported that. They went back and got the numbers. ESPN, and I know there's another company called True Media that actually kept some numbers apparently last season. I don't know if you saw that online somewhere, but somebody has put their stats online. ESPN, I looked at theirs because they went through the last 3 seasons. Their numbers differed from True Media, which only did last season. But I'll go with ESPN's because it's a 3-year sample size. They said that Philadelphia and Buffalo are by far the 2 teams that used the tush push more than anybody else in the last 3 seasons. And they converted on 142 out of 163 opportunities, 87%. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what they claimed, which is actually 4% less than Tom Brady.
Now,
which meant that as great as the tush push is, Tom Brady actually did better with a standard quarterback sneak. Think about that for a minute.
Well, I have 2, questions.
There's more, and then you do whatever you want. Let me just finish out the rest of their stat.
Go for it.
The rest of their stat was that the 163 tush pushes by Philly and Buffalo over the last 3 years was more than all of the other 30 teams combined. Just to show you how these 2 teams more heavily favor using it than anybody else, because the rest of the league really does not apparently care much for the play, or at least to use it, or can't do it, whatever the reason is. The rest of the league, in whatever limited number they had, and again, they didn't have the chart with all these numbers. I wish they had. the ESPN story I had only had these limited facts. They said of the 30 teams combined over the last 3 years, they were only successful on 71% of their plays, which again goes back to Tom Brady was at 91%. I'm sorry, folks. The regular quarterback sneak was more effective. Whatever. I just found that very, very, very interesting. Now, go ahead. Whatever you want to throw out there.
I just had questions about that. For starters, the rule that you are not allowed to push the ball carrier forward was removed in 2005.
Correct.
Which means for majority of Brady's career, that rule was not in place. So we don't know how much of those 91% career sneaks he actually had a running back help pushing him forward.
Nobody, to my recollection, believes, as when Blandino was on this morning too, he said, this is only the reason they abolished the rule. Let me go back to this. He said the reason they abolished the rule in 2005 was because it was too difficult to call. One, the officials were having trouble figuring it out. God only knows why, but look, they got enough trouble. Too difficult to call. And second of all, it wasn't happening very often. They were more concerned about players pushing and pulling each other on plays downfield than they were at the line of scrimmage. So he said they finally decided in 2005, and he said it was to his chagrin, that why have the rule on the books when we're really calling it anyway, and it probably doesn't really come into play. So that's why they erased the rule about assisting a runner. And then he said, so now, because of what Philly started, and then Buffalo kind of piggybacked a little bit, they kind of tush-pushed themselves onto the back of the formation. That's why this suddenly became an issue. I don't know how many times Brady was pushed in the back. I don't know that any of us really have thought much about it because he came into the league in 2000. And in 2005, the rule went away. So a lot of the years he played without it, but I just, again, we're talking recollection here. To everybody's conversations in years past, it's always been said that Brady was the best at the quarterback sneak. No one ever really suggested he needed any help.
No,
but anyway.
He certainly is considered to be, maybe pre-Jalen Hurts and tush push, the best quarterback sneaker ever, for sure. All I'm saying is, because it wasn't as obvious as the tush push formation, which when a team lines up in the tush push, everyone in the entire stadium and watching the game knows exactly what is coming.
No doubt.
Because there weren't situations like that for Brady and basically his entire career, because I can't remember, the Bucks at the end of his career running the tush push.
They didn't want to do it.
Yeah. It's a little different when you got a 43-year-old
no doubt
back there than
no doubt. And yet he still did some sneaks.
For sure.
He still did some.
But I'm just saying, I feel like they're and I don't know this for sure, but there could have been a lot of times where, you had the running back or the tight end giving him a little shove, and it just...
We need Pearson in here right now. Johnny Mac, go get Pearson!
And it just wasn't noticed because the tush push wasn't a thing for all those years.
I can't say I don't have any evidence either way on this.
No, that was just something I was curious when you pulled up that stat. So
I don't remember the conversation ever coming up that he was getting that kind of push, because I would think that after the rule was erased in 2005, I would think if it had happened, certainly on a frequent basis, people would have raised the issue and said, wait a minute, what's going on here? I think it would have been noticeable and people would have started talking about it. I suspect, but I can't say for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back and watch every Tom Brady snap with the Patriots. I'm sorry. I'm not a glutton for punishment.
And then the only other...
I will watch the 2 Super Bowls against the Giants, though.
The only other thing I wanted to ask, which I know you don't have those numbers in front of you because you just pulled those from ESPN. This is all ESPN.
That's all I had.
I'm wondering why ESPN decided to combine the Eagles and Bills together when clearly the Eagles have been known to be the masters of this play. I can think of the top of my head maybe twice in the last couple of years where a team was actually able to successfully stop the Eagles. And they were obviously what was it? 142 out of 163 of the 21 stops.
How many were Buffalo?
I'd be willing to bet that at least 15 were Buffalo.
I don't know.
Which is just interesting that they decided to combine the two. I guess it's because those two have run it the most, and it just makes the sample size bigger. But clearly the Eagles are on their own level and their own tier when it comes to running that play.
Yeah, no doubt. And they were able to do it without Kelsey. Kelsey retired, and
everyone thought, "Oh, there goes the tush push." Nope.
I wasn't even concerned about that play. I thought their line would just take a hit without him.
Yeah,
somehow it didn't happen. Didn't happen.
Jeff Stoutland, that's why.
Yeah, tell me about it. All right, folks, that is our take on all of the happenings of the last 24 hours. Again, as far as I know, the NFL has not officially commented on any of these votes, have they?
So they announced the flag football.
That they announced yesterday.
They announced the onside kick.
They did
this morning.
Okay, so the rest of it.
I don't think there's been an official announcement yet about the tush push. I think it was just the onside kick.
Okay, and we know the Lions did announce that they were pulling back the playoff seeding thing.
Yes,
they did that themselves. The Lions talked about that. All right, so really the tush push one is the only one we don't have any official word from the NFL on. But again, NFL Network and ESPN are reporting it.
Jeffrey Lurie is talking to the media about it, I think, as we speak. I see Jeremy Fowler tweeting quotes from Jeffrey Lurie. So,
no doubt breakdancing during the media conference, I'm sure. All right, so now we go to the phones and we go to you guys at 201-939-4513. Ron in New Jersey is on line one. You're first on the program. Hello.
Hey, guys. Good to talk to you.
Hi.
You stole all my thunder for the most part. I don't want to beat a dead horse. So I'll be fairly quick here. First, yesterday's show was very entertaining. Matt, I thought you were coherent. I agree with your argument. I don't know why people couldn't pick up on that. So well done.
Appreciate that.
We're just here to have fun, guys. That's all.
I know you are, and
we want you guys to have fun too.
But one real quick question, and then my real question. You still can't pull players. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. But here's, Paul, where I disagree with you a bit yesterday on the emotional part. Of course we're all going to be emotional here. We're fans, right? That's what we're supposed to be. Do you really think if the push-tush was most successfully run by Carolina, Falcons, any teams that aren't in the playoffs, are we really having this conversation?
Albert Breer kind of thought the same thing. He mentioned that this is a big mountain out of a molehill, that maybe it's not that big of a deal. Well, look, I can only tell you how I felt, and I've explained it. I'm not going through it again. It honestly,
I'm not
it's
asking
something.
You to.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. Do you think?
And I have no hatred for the Buffalo Bills, by the way. Let me make that clear. Buffalo is the second most team that uses this. I have no hatred against the Bills either. I just don't think the play is good. I don't.
Me too. I ban it. Believe me.
You would ban it.
Yes.
Well, it didn't sound that way when you came on the call.
But he was just saying he understood what I was saying about the health and safety part of it.
And I think maybe that's where Blandino's speculation comes in, that there is a perception here that it's an anti-Philly vote. And maybe he's right. Maybe that perception was one of the reasons why a couple of people may have backed off. I don't know.
Or even an anti-winner approach.
Okay.
Right? Every play's dangerous. We know that.
Yeah, it's a rough game.
If defensive coordinators need somebody to tell them not to do a missile, then they shouldn't be defensive coordinators.
Well, Greg Williams obviously, instructed some of his Saints players some years ago to do some nasty stuff too. He got suspended for it.
I just want to say I really enjoyed yesterday's show. I couldn't listen to it live, so I was listening to it last night. So I was anxious to call today.
Thank you, Ron.
Again, Matt, well done. Talk to you guys again.
All right.
Thank you, Ron.
It.
Appreciate the support.
See, that's the good news, because we do want to be enjoyable and engaging here too. Even if you guys simply laugh, I don't care. That's okay, because if you're bored, you won't come back to the show. We might have doubled our ratings today. Because we got all heated and sweaty under the collar over this stupid tush push thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, at the end of the day, as heated as we might sometimes get, and yesterday we got a little heated, but
after 15 seconds, it didn't bother me.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we're talking about football here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we're talking about, world politics or, life or death situations. We're talking about the game that we all love. And obviously, it is serious in our lives, but at the end of the day, it's not the most serious topic in the world.
Well,
so
I'm happy when they started doing this thing. I guess it was 3 years ago. I guess that's when ESPN started with their stats. So I'm guessing they're thinking 3 years. It first started, if you remember, it was being called the Philadelphia Shove.
the brotherly shove.
The brotherly shove, yes. I'm glad it changed to tush push because now it took it away from being just a Philadelphia play. Buffalo started,
but it's still kind of
we
seen
all
as a
associate
Philly
it with
play.
them. Yeah, but when the name changed to tush push,
That's true.
that changed a bit of the color of the play from eagle green to maybe a little less eagle green.
That's fair.
Okay? I was glad for that because maybe you wouldn't have to deal with that stigma of making it a rule against the team. But who knows? Maybe that's the case. All right, we go back to the phones. Line 2 has Jason in New Haven. You're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, fellas, what's going on?
Hi.
What's up, Jason?
Good. Yeah, great conversation you guys had yesterday. I thought it was pretty entertaining.
Good.
And hey, listen, I'm a big blue to the death. I'm always gonna root for my guys. Hey, if you're able to use that play to your advantage, God bless you. I mean, I never really was mad at it. If the Giants were using it and was successful at it, I'd be rooting for them to keep the rule too. So, I guess maybe in the future, if they start to have some more injuries, maybe they'll change that play. But I guess enough about that topic. I wanted to talk a little bit about the schedule, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I know you guys talked about it ad nauseum, but I haven't called. But I just wanted to get you two opinions on what I'm about to say. So, of course, we know we have a pretty tough schedule. I think any team you play in the NFL is a tough team, personally. These guys are the top of the top. So you're always going to have to bring your lunch pail when you play any team, even, quote-unquote, the bottom feeders of the league.
Sure.
So what I'll say is this, right? And I always use this. I know, Paul, you're not a big analytics guy, and I'm not either. I listen to a little bit of it. I'm more of old school, but I can understand some of the things with some of the analytics. And maybe, Matt, maybe you're more analytical or whatever. So last year, I did a little research.
Mm-hmm.
This is from PFF's power rankings schedule-wise, right? Their power rankings before last season. Sorry. So the number one team in their rankings was the Niners, right?
Okay.
They finished with a 6-11 record. The Commanders were ranked 30th before last season. 3 spots behind us. Made it to the conference championship. The Vikings were ranked 25th. They went on to have a 14-3 record. The Broncos were ranked in the 20s, I believe, and wound up winning 10 games. So I'm just using that as an example to say, and it's not necessarily for you two gentlemen, for all the fans that are freaking out, oh, my God, we're going to win 2 games, we're going to win 1 game, fire Shane, fire Dable. I've always stated the NFL is a week-to-week and a year-to-year league. Nothing transfers over always from a positive standpoint or a negative standpoint, right? I believe we've dramatically improved as a roster, right? All this stuff has to, of course, materialize on the field, right? The guys, the coaches, the training staff, the players, front office, they all have to make it concrete now, because I believe the roster is better, from quarterback room to the secondary room to the defensive line room, even the depth of our offensive line. I think we've done a really good job. Receiver room, I like. Would I like another guy there? I guess you could say yes, I would, but I like it so far. Running back room, I think is a little more, has more depth, more youth to it, which I like. So all I'm saying is everybody just calm down, not you two, but I'm speaking to the fans who are very, pessimistic, and I get it. The team hasn't necessarily given us a lot to root for the last 10 years, right? But I've always said, the NFL is a year-to-year league. You don't know who is going to fall off. You don't know who's going to rise. Nobody thought the Niners were going to be 6-11. Now, yes, they have some injuries, of course. but injuries are part of the game. Nobody had the Commanders. I don't think anybody. Paul, if somebody would have had you bet $1,000 last year, you probably wouldn't have bet they'd have made the conference finals. There's no way you'd have bet it.
Can you sign us up for this year? I mean, we're ready. Give us a pen. All right, we're ready. Let's go.
So, and I'll make a quick few points so you get other callers, right? Last year's season was rough. You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We all know that. You guys covered the team. I'm sure it's rough for you guys too, watching it close. But here's what I'll say, and maybe you guys would disagree with me. To me, we could have easily won. And I hate to go revisionist history because it doesn't matter anymore. But just for the sake of the schedule argument and strength of schedule, who you play, there are a few games I look at last year and I say, what would our season? Would we have been a playoff team or a conference championship caliber team? Probably not, maybe, but probably not. But there's a few games that stick out to me, right? Everybody's hyping up the Commanders, right? They had a great year. I'm not taking that from them. The first game we played them, we lost. No, the second game we played them, we lost by a field goal. The first game we played them, I thought we played very well, but we had no kicker. So those are two games that stick out to me. Mm-hmm. The Panthers game, I'm not going to bring up his name because he's not part of the roster anymore.
Yeah.
The quarterback play in that Panthers game to me was it just wasn't up to snuff. And I don't know if you guys – I don't think you guys would disagree with me on that one. The Saints game, lost by a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
That Bengals game, I thought personally we outplayed the Bengals in that game.
I thought so too.
And we lost that game. The first Dallas game, I thought we played very well. I thought we held that offense really in check. I thought our defense played very well. Offense didn't give us much. That's another game. So all I'm saying to everybody that calls in and is so pessimistic, and I get it. As fans, we're very emotional. I'm a Knicks fan as well. I get it. It's a lot of emotions built into our teams, but some rational has to take over. Have some optimism because we are a better team. Like I said, do they have to prove it on the field? Yes. But all we should go off right now is on paper. And on paper, we are a better team. So everybody just calm down. Let's let this thing play out. Let's pray for great health for the team. I know injuries are part of it, and I'm not putting that in the universe, but it is a part of the NFL.
Jason, we got to get to other calls, but here's what I'm going to say to you.
Thank you for taking my call, fellas.
This is exactly why I appreciate it. This is exactly why I love the season about 500,000 times more than the offseason, because we have games.
Yeah.
And we get to see the players do what they have to do. And we have tangible results and tangible evidence. We don't have to spend 25 hours a day talking about hypotheticals and what ifs. You know, I like facts. I like games.
I'm with you, but I do agree with a lot of what Jason said. I mean, some of what he said, you and I have been saying since the schedule came out.
No doubt.
It's a year-to-year league. You don't know what teams are going to repeat their success, what teams are going to fall, and what teams are going to rise. That's why you have to actually play the games on your schedule. But just the one thing that he mentioned that I do want to sort of remind fans that are more on the pessimistic side is, as horrendous as last year went as a whole, let's not forget, the season started with the team going 2-3.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line through the first 5 games was completely healthy and played every single snap together. And it wasn't until, I believe it was that week 6 game, the night game against the Bengals, when Andrew Thomas got hurt and then proceeded to miss the rest of the season, where things crumbled and fell apart. And we've spoken about how you look back at the last 2 years, when Andrew Thomas got hurt is sort of when things on the offensive side of the ball, at least, completely fell apart.
For sure.
And you're right, injuries do happen every year. Could Andrew Thomas get hurt again? Of course it's possible. But when healthy, it was a very solid, I'm not going to say it was outstanding, but the offensive line was solid. It was getting the job done. The team, week 5, the team went to Seattle and upset a good Seahawks team, beat them by 9 points.
And that's what I want to stop you at for 1 second, because I want to take a poll. Johnny Mac, get your mic on a second here. All right? The 3 of us in this room, when the Giants stunned the Seahawks, when Isaiah Simmons blocked that kick at the end of the game in Seattle, the House of Horrors where the Giants have had so many bad days. Giants win that game. Are any of us thinking that after that second win of the season, they're only going to win one more game the rest of the way? Come on, be honest. No way, right?
Not that thought did not come close to remotely crossing my mind.
It was not even a possibility, was it?
No, after that win, we were like, okay, this is the team that we saw in 2022 that no one had any expectations for, and they went out, surprised everyone, and made a run to the playoffs. This is a team that's starting to look like that.
That's it. That was the match for me that was going to start the fire.
Yeah.
The Giants were going to be that team that we expected now, and it didn't happen. So not only sometimes do you not know going into the season what you got, sometimes week to week you don't know what you got because 100%. You never know what's going to derail you.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, we go back to the phones. Cliff in New York, you are next on line 3. Thanks for calling.
Hey, guys, great show. I agree with those comments. You really lit me up all week, not just yesterday. Jason was talking about what I wanted to get to about Washington. We were not hopelessly outclassed by that team last year. They were 2 of the 8 one-score losses out of the 9 one-score games, and I think that the context that's going to help us this year is the dreaded September football, especially the first game. I think we're really in a position to surprise them as much as we like to see some preseason pads work in preseason games that shows us something. I don't think they're going to. I don't think Dable's going to show anybody a damn thing. And
nor should he. In terms of
no.
plays, no, he should not show anybody his playbook. I would like to see some of the regulars get some more snaps, though, but that's another story.
I know. I agree with that, as you've said it over the years. But still, what was Belichick's famous comment about September football? Was it just the first game, or wasn't it the whole month?
I don't recall.
I think it was like an extension of the preseason, something like that.
Well, Bill Polian is the one that I follow on that. He always says it takes you about 4 games to figure out what your team is, and it is like an extension of the preseason.
Okay. I think that's in our huge favor. A third of the 8 losses by one score was the one Jason was talking about with Dallas. And I just think we've improved more than both teams. I think everybody talks about the quarterback in Washington and what a wonderful debut he had, yada, yada. Nobody talked about the new general manager and the new coach. And the Belichick also had given a shout-out to that new general manager. I heard it someplace, and I was scared. And I had reason to be, as it turned out. He signed that guy Luvo for $8 million, and he re-signed him for a lot more than that. And Wagner. And
they made some good trades this offseason too. They added some vets now. This Washington team has improved in some very important areas.
That trade for Laramie Tunsil is so monumental for them. Like that, their offense was great last year behind a not so good offensive line, and they went out and added Laramie Tunsil, an all-pro tackle. They drafted Josh Connerly, who was one of the top tackles in the draft. That offensive line, at least, has the potential to take a huge step up. With obviously Jaden Daniels being, the franchise quarterback now. I don't know how much further up you can go from what he showed, but having such an improved offensive line, obviously, only going to help him.
That's the problem. I do think he'll take a step back, but how is he going to fall on his face when they've improved all the elements around him so much?
Deebo Samuel as well.
I know. It's going to be almost impossible for him to totally fall apart because they've given him so many pieces.
Although we did say the same thing about C.J. Stroud going into last year.
He took a step back.
Everyone would agree he did take a step back. Despite
I don't know if he fell on his face, though.
No, definitely not. I mean, the Texans still, won 10 games and made the playoffs? So I'm not going to go ahead and...
for him, we win.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit up here and say that he took such a huge step back. But he did look a little bit better as a rookie than he did this past year.
No doubt.
And that was with all of the pieces that they had on offense as well. So it is possible that Jaden Daniels hits the sophomore slump, but again, even if he does, I don't expect it to be much of a slump.
Yeah, I get you.
Well, I expect us to have a pretty damn good chance of jumping both of those first two games.
Be
even
awesome.
though they're on the road.
Again, sign us up.
Well, they're not going to know what they're going to get in the first game at all, and they're only going to have that much film from that game for the rest of the month. I think it's September football's in our favor this year. I also wanted to say, I think the 53 has to carry 4 quarterbacks because if somebody goes down, then the rookie has to be the backup, and that can't happen. Nobody does that.
Wait, Cliff, hold on. If you go with 3, what you do is you put a 4th quarterback on the practice squad. And then what you're talking about is really not even more than a 1-week proposition at most, because you could always bring, if you got one of your 3 guys hurt long term, you could always bring that guy up from the practice squad.
Yeah, it might not, you would run the risk if you, let's say, at the end of training camp, decide we're not going to carry, Tommy DeVito, because I think he would be the choice right now.
Yeah.
You would think that of the most likely quarterback to not make it, there is a chance he could get picked up by another team. He's won games in the NFL. He's young. He's developing. It's certainly possible. But if that were to happen, if the Giants were to waive him and he were to get picked up by someone else, I would almost guarantee that there would be another veteran quarterback of some sort signed to the practice squad to prevent that exact situation that you just brought up from happening.
Yeah.
Okay,
There'll be a guy. There
but to
will
me,
be
the best news in the QB room since the end of the year is our present backup for $4 million a year, who made great strides with his interceptions when he was coached by Sean Payton. And I'm not saying that Dable has earned a comparison to Payton yet, but as a quarterback whisperer, I think he might be pretty close. And if he gets any time with him, I'm dying to see what Jameis can do, really.
Well, Matt, I'll say this. Hopefully, Russell Wilson plays well enough that you don't have to worry about seeing anybody else. But I would also add one other caveat to what we were just saying about that 4th quarterback. The Giants aren't good enough to carry 4 quarterbacks on a 53-man roster, because that's another roster spot you could give away to somebody else who you may need at another position. You can't do that to yourself.
As much as you want to obviously, protect the development of Jackson Dart, which obviously everyone would agree would be one of the most important priorities of the season, you can't do that at the detriment to the rest of the roster, because you are still trying to go out there and win games every week.
Okay, well that's a little that's reassuring, but I really would love to see what Jameis can do. He doesn't have to do it because Russell gets hurt. Russell's on a 1-year deal. I'm thinking that he's expecting to try to show enough to get a multi-year again, even though he's getting older. And that he shows enough to get that kind of deal, and we get Jameis, and we don't have to be hell bent on getting Jackson in anytime soon. And who's to say that they have a lot of respect? Shane and Dable, they don't call the backup quarterback; they call him the number 2, and they refer to that, and they feel that with what we paid to get Jackson, we could think of him as developing as a number 2 and be worth it. I think, especially if there's guys that are more highly regarded coming down the pike in the next year or two, which would be comparable to the 23 class that had so many guys step in as rookies. And so I'm feeling pretty good about that room. And as far as Washington improving their OL, they have to prove it in real games. I don't know who their OL coach is.
Yeah, everybody does. Well, that would be Bobby Johnson, the former Giants O-line coach.
Oh, really?
He did a
pretty good job last year.
I was going to say, he scraped it together, didn't he? He scraped it together last year. They did enough. They did enough to keep that rookie, productive.
I just think we can jump both of the first 2 games.
All right, Cliff.
I really.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cliff.
201-939-4513.
Real quick, before we get to the last caller, there was an announcement just made.
What do we got?
I want everyone to just buckle up real quick.
Uh-oh.
Roger Goodell announced that the Buffalo Bills would be the summer Hard Knocks team. And then for the in-season Hard Knocks, of course, when they follow a full division, it is the NFC East. So the Giants will be one of 4 teams on the in-season Hard Knocks. I know how excited everyone must be for that. It is what it is. I mean,
you're not pulling my leg.
I am not pulling your leg. This is Ian Rappaport saying Roger Goodell just announced.
Okay. Wow.
So I let it off by saying buckle up.
Wow.
And I mean, at the very least, in this version of Hard Knocks, the Giants will obviously be one of 4 teams. So it's not like every single episode will be 24/7 covering the Giants. It'll be about all 4 teams in the division. So a little less of a spotlight here on us in East Rutherford.
Could they have picked a different division this year?
That would have been nice. I would have appreciated that, but
well, thank you for catching that off the computer. We go to Matt in East Islip. Hello.
Sorry to bring the vibes down there.
Yeah, that's a real nice way to throw cold water on this program. Go ahead, Matt. You're the last caller on the show today.
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
Hi.
Good. How are you?
Good. I want to talk about this tush push. I think the best argument against it is what Mark Schlereth said. You know, they banned the defense from pushing in the name of safety. So, like, why was it okay for the offense to push now? I think, you know, I know Matt was saying about, you know, having some evidence on injuries. I don't know. Maybe they found a lot more injuries when the defense pushed, but kind of sounds contradictory that, you know, the defense can push and the offense can push and the defense can't.
That is a totally fair point.
Well, Coach Marvin brought that up yesterday, and I did check. He was right.
Yeah.
Chris Jones, you know, did come up with an issue following a tush push in the Super Bowl. Look, hey, we know what the arguments were 2 and 4, and somehow it still came up to 2 votes short. So it is what it is for at least another year.
Yep. And the other thing is, for me personally, I don't mind them pushing so much. I have a big problem when you watch sometimes and you see them, like the running back or whoever is
How about the
behind
spot of the ball? How about that?
Grabbing his waistband and lifting him up and pushing. That I have a problem with.
Yeah, well, you know, part of the issue for me, and when I talk about safety, and this goes not just for this play, it goes for all plays. I think there are too many times, and I appreciate that officials don't want to blow the whistle early. I get that. You do that, you take away the potential maybe of an escape and of a really good play. So I'm sensitive to that. I think there have been too many times in recent years where I've seen the pile and, you know, there's a rugby scrum going on and the officials don't blow the whistle quick enough. And then by the time you've got 9 bodies on top of that guy with the ball, how are you really supposed to get a legit spot?
That's fair. I mean, when they don't blow the whistle fast enough, like you said, there are instances where you see guys like 5 seconds into the pile starting, just leaping out of nowhere and diving on top.
I mean, to be frank,
which that I would say is more a player safety issue.
No doubt. And that's part of where I'm coming from. And, you know, I'm not going to say that some of these things are not first downs or touchdowns when Hurts does it. But there are moments, there are some of those plays when he does this tush push, some of them, he does get enveloped by that mass of humanity. And when the referees finally come in to start grabbing bodies off the pile, I don't know where his forward progress was really stopped. There are other times where you can see him. And you could say, all right, he got the first down. But there are plenty of times on this tush push thing where you can't see him. And then all of a sudden, they're coming up with a miraculous spot and they give him the first down? Yeah. Are they just assuming he got it?
No, see, that is a valid argument as to why it should get banned. See, that I can support because I agree with you. I can't even count how many times throughout just this past season where a team ran the tush push, Eagles or whoever else it might be, and there's no possible way the refs could actually see where the ball should be spotted. It seems like they sort of just guess, or they put it where like they last saw the ball before the pile kind of started, which could be, a yard further back from where the ball actually should be spotted.
Think about it.
That is a valid argument.
Because you got the ball's there, it gets hiked, there's players in front of the guy who coming at him. He's now pushing himself into that pile, and there were people behind him. So there are instances where you lose sight of him.
Yeah, you just can't see the ball at all.
And yet, well, now the officials come running in. They don't blow the whistle right away because they don't know where forward progress was stopped. And then sometimes you don't even hear the whistle. I swear it to you, sometimes you don't even hear it. Maybe they're blowing it, maybe they're not. I don't even know. And then finally they start pulling these people off, and okay, there's the ball, first down. Really?
Yeah, that I agree with you on.
So that's all I got, Matt.
Yeah, that's all I got. I don't like when they grab the waist and lift. That's my problem.
Well, that's not cool either.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate the call. All right, 201-939-4513 for tomorrow. It'll be you and Lance tomorrow.
Lance. Yep.
Big Blue Kickoff Live is heard 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour live every weekday. Otherwise, it's on the Giants Podcast Network. It's on Giants.com/podcast. It's on the Giants mobile app. The Huddle has, do you know? Who we got? Anybody new?
Tomorrow is Marcus Satterfield.
Marcus Satterfield goes up tomorrow. Cool.
Along with, I believe, the next Baldy Breakdown.
Then, I watched the Abdul Carter one.
It was good. I think tomorrow, I want to say tomorrow is Jackson Dart. I think we're going in order of the guys, how they were drafted.
Okay.
So Dart would be tomorrow, and then
that would be true.
I think starting tomorrow, I believe every day there will be a new one till we finish the draft class.
You know what I like about the Abdul Carter one, folks? Do check it out. It's only about 2.5 minutes. You know?
It's short.
He goes through a number of different elements and different ways that Abdul Carter's skill set can be applied and how he can attack an offense. It's not just like, okay, he's coming on the edge every play.
Yep.
He takes you through different ways that Carter can damage another team. And that's what's it's a real good like thumbnail sketch. Baldy's awesome. We love Baldy.
He's great.
So that's on the Giants social platforms. As always, Giants season ticket memberships are available for the upcoming season at MetLife Stadium, but you can stay connected to the team all year long. You get exclusive member access and benefits. Go to Giants.com/tickets and the Giants mobile app, Giants TV, all kinds of streaming info there. Some of the stuff that we just talked about on Twitter. It's always on Instagram. It's always on Facebook. It's everywhere. Do we do TikTok, too?
We do have a TikTok.
We do have one. All right. See, so all that stuff is there.
I would say it's not exactly the same content that goes up on Twitter.
Well, they play games
Instagram,
with the guys in the hallway.
All those games,
I know.
yeah.
And the goofy questions.
Yeah, the mini mics.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will say, I would just want to endorse one article that's currently up on Giants.com that Dan Salamone, our senior managing editor, put together.
Okay.
John Schmelk interviewed 2 of the national scouts of the team that played a big part in the Giants.
That was on the Huddle last week.
Last week's Huddle. This is not new, but Dan wrote it up.
Okay.
What the national scouts saw in several members of the draft class, but namely Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart. It's an interesting, quick read. Highly recommend giving it a look.
Folks, I know we went a tad long today, but we had a lot of stuff to talk about with all these rules, proposals, and so forth. This has been Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Matt Citak, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you again next time. So long, everybody.
Go Knicks.